Um, it always takes a second before. Oh, and we are live. Greetings, friends and fam. Welcome back to Volume 2 of the Bizarchives Extravaganza here at the WhiteArtCollective. Got like a hell of a show today for you folks. We got all the heavy hitters today. We got, of course, the godfather of Bizarchives, Dave Martel. And we got Robert C. Booth, A. Cuthbertson, Aaron Gieson, MS Jones, CJ Miller. I mean, we got all the big guys today. It's going to be a hell of a exciting show today. So I'm joined today by my wonderful co-host Hiraeth. How are you doing today?
Hello. I'm doing great. I look forward to this.
Right, me too. I'm so excited to be able to do this show. I
Yeah.
really love Bizarchives. It's like one of my favorite things happening right now. So it's
Yeah, it's great
exciting.
stuff. It's really great stuff. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. But
No,
yeah,
no, 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 it's
I
okay.
get to look inside the creative processes and the minds of musicians so frequently. So this will be really a really nice switch up because talk to authors because it is its own art, writing stories, you're creating worlds, and that's really cool. You have to have a really good imagination and to be able to do that.
Yeah, and like I think I have a lot of respect for authors, particularly in this day and age, because it's so hard for me to even like read anymore because my mind I get so distracted so easily. I'm always like checking my phone every 2 seconds or whatever. I can't even imagine actually like having the concentration to actually sit down and write a story in this day and age. So like, huge props to you all for still doing it because it's so necessary and important, work still. But once I actually start one of the short stories, then I'm into it. I get, but like once when you start in the beginning, you keep getting distracted. Sometimes it takes me a while to finish it. Um, yeah, but Mr. Dave Martell, how are we doing today?
I'm doing excellent, Mr. Wolfshield, Miss Hiraeth. Thank you so much for having me on, and I'm very excited to talk about the Bizarchives issue 2 and to hear your guys' feedback and to get to talk to my boys here.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I think I'll just start off giving my thoughts overall on it, and then I'm gonna do a my top 5 countdown like I did last show. So I have to say that this topped Volume 1 in literally every conceivable metric. Um, I mean, like, first of all, it's just like, well, oh, hold on, how are we? It's thicker. So this is Volume 1 and then Volume 2. So like that just there alone is just like really good. But interestingly enough, there's actually less stories um in Volume 2, right? Right, Dave?
I believe I believe there's one less story in it.
Right. So you really like focused on like quality over quantity. And I love that each story was like longer than before. Cuz like the first volume it's like it was kind of like you're whetting my appetite and I was still like so hungry, but this one it felt like a meal. Once I actually finished it, I was just like, "Oh, so satisfying." You know.
Excellent.
Yeah, and every author who returned upped their game like bigly. It was
Mhm.
a huge improvement on everybody's front. Um, yeah, super exciting stuff. Let's see what else.
Yeah, I would between issue 1 and like excuse me, I'm like fighting a cold here. But issue 1, like that was a good book. It was a great debut. We did really well with that. Guys,
Impressive debut for
it was
sure.
I'm very proud of that debut. There's a lot of good stories in it. But because of I would say because of the nature of how we work together and stuff like that, we have a lot of guys that um are like are a little more seasoned. They know a little bit more about the technicalities of the craft and all that kind of stuff. So they pull guys aside and say, "Hey, check out this thing that you wrote here. Try doing this," and we all kind of help each other and build each other up. And you see the results.
You really can. You really can. I it was just like from the first story that I read, I was just like, wow, okay, we are taking this up a few notches, a lot of notches to be honest. So over the first one, I was like, God damn.
Yeah, and in the second issue, there was a little bit. There's more complete stories. There were some more complete characters. In the first issue, it was because it was our debut issue. I think a lot of the stories that folks submitted were stories that they might have had just kind of, I don't want to say just laying around or something, but it wasn't. The Bizarchives was this brand new thing.
You weren't sure whether this
Yeah.
was really going to be something.
So they didn't necessarily throw up the best stuff. Not that the stuff in it was bad. Their stories in it are great in my opinion. But when Bizarchives 2 came around, everybody was like, okay, the Bizarchives is something that I really really like. It's something that I want to put extra effort into, and it really just turned out great in my opinion. It was the stories from everybody. There's a lot of new guys in it that weren't in the first one. Aaron that's here now, CJ here's now. They weren't in the first one, and they came in with really really great stories. I'm very very proud of issue 2, and then obviously the art by Don Kent. The interior art is it's just not a lot of work. There's not a lot of books out there that have that kind of quality in it. Like I said, the first one was very good. The second Bizarchives issue 2 is just as good as anything out there on the market, in my opinion.
Definitely better than honestly. Hiraeth, what are your thoughts on Volume 2?
I thought, okay, full disclosure, I haven't read every story in there. I haven't had time to read every story, but I did read the top 5, and I really enjoy what I've read so far. I wish that I had time to read the whole thing up before now, but unfortunately I did not. But I plan on reading the whole thing, of course. I definitely agree. I think there are also some more like horror elements in this one, which I particularly enjoy because I'm a big fan of the horror genre of movies, stories, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I really, really thought it was taken up a notch. And I was wondering, Dave, and I think I might have asked you this last time about the first issue, but do you have any plans on making these audiobooks at all?
We would like to. We do have some guys out there that offered to work on it, and they said that they were working on it. Unfortunately, the audiobook thing it's a big undertaking. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
If you hire somebody, it's a lot of money. And unfortunately, the profit margin is not very good, and it doesn't sell as well as physical copies for us anyways. So
I know certainly my wife would really like that because she's mostly blind and she can't read anymore. And I'm just like, ugh, I can't read. I can never, like, I run out of breath after like a page. So
it is. I can vouch for how hard it is because I tried to read ACs. I actually gave it to Dave, and I think he put it on the YouTube. And I thought, like, this will be easy. It's set in England. It's I'm English, so but it took a million takes, and I still wasn't that happy with it. Partly because when I sent it to Dave, he was like, "You're talking too fast. Like, no one's gonna understand what it says." And that was me talking like really deliberately slowly as well. So I think you slowed it down a little bit for the release.
Yeah, I slowed it down like 0.25 or something.
Yeah,
you did release an audiobook?
Yeah, it's on the Bizarchives YouTube channel.
Okay, which one was it?
I'm embarrassed.
It's just one story.
You'll hear my voice.
Tanner's Gold, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's Tanner's Gold. My one and Bizarchives one.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it was just that's another thing when you got to look at audiobooks is number one, we have a lot of stories that are written in like regional dialects and accents and stuff like that. And me personally, I don't want to hear an English story told by some guy that has like a West Coast American accent, and I don't want to hear something that's set in West Virginia read by a guy from Scotland. It's just you got to make sure you have a guy that naturally speaks that accent. And some of the like with what Mr. Aaron said, the reading he did was very good, but because the accent that they have and the way that they talk up there, when they talk at their normal rate and a comfortable rate, it's difficult for Americans to follow. So I had to slow it down a little bit, but it was a good reading.
Nice. We need like our own version of LibriVox, like a LibriVox community of our people, all different accents that can help with this sort of thing. But I was just gonna say, if you ever need like a reading of one of the stories, I'd be happy to contribute.
That'd be
in
wonderful.
That way. So
that'd be wonderful.
Yeah, just let me know.
Sure.
Yeah, so I think I'm just gonna like hop into my top 5 countdown and kind of just like
Dun dun dun. Top 5.
I love making lists. I love doing countdowns of my favorite things. Like I do my top 20 favorite songs of Whack each year, and gonna do that with this again. Probably each volume I will. So I'm gonna start out with number 6.
So you have a top 5, and you're gonna start with number 6.
Well, like I always say, it's my list. I make the rules. Okay.
Right.
Number 6, I'm gonna "The Sound of Beneath" by C.J. Miller. Now that was something else. That was I think the perfect story to end it. Because once you get to that last like little bit at the end and you like close the book or whatever, you're like left with this feeling, like just this feeling of vastness, like vast emptiness, and like kind of I don't know, I don't even know how to describe it, but you're just kind of sitting there in silence for a little bit, and it takes like a little bit to kind of recover almost. But yeah, that was really good
because that's exactly what I was going for.
Yeah, that's great. That was. Yeah, no, I just sat like in my chair for like 5 minutes, just kind of like contemplating. And I've never read an H.P. Lovecraft story before. And it's clearly, I mean, like you say in the title, like lovingly crafted. I forget what exactly, but you make it pretty obvious that you're making an homage to H.P. Lovecraft. And I've never read it, but like after reading this, I'm like, okay, I get it. I get why people like H.P. Lovecraft. I did.
Okay, that's interesting because I was not sure that if someone hadn't read H.P. Lovecraft, that they would really get much out of the story. Because every element of it was meant to be sort of an homage, from like the setting to the like mysterious estate to like the tinge of madness to the monster, obviously, like everything about it. And I just thought, well, maybe the audience for this is quite narrow, because if you haven't read H.P. Lovecraft or you don't like him, you're just not going to get much out of it. But I'm glad to hear that even if you don't have a background reading that, you can still enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think I kind of like, because I've listened to Dave kind of like talk about H.P. Lovecraft, and it's like I kind of like vaguely understand what he's trying to say, but it all clicked together once I read that. I'm like, oh. So I pulled out my H.P. Lovecraft. I got like the full volume, like all of his collected works together, and I almost started it, but I didn't. I almost like don't want to ruin like the experience that I had with your story by actually reading the real thing. Yeah, but
I'll believe he's well worth it.
Yeah. Let's see here.
Can I hop on, talk about CJ's story?
Well, of course, anybody can hop on whenever.
Yeah, CJ's story was, I think it was the last submission that we got before I like kind of closed it up, and I read it and I was like, this has to go in. This has to go in. It's because Bizarchives 2, I start out with an homage to Lovecraft. If you guys read my first introduction piece, it was called The Silver Key. The Silver Key is named after a Lovecraft story. So, and then it goes in and it talks about kind of a lot of Lovecraftian, kind of some of Lovecraft's worldview in regards to imagination, his critique of modernity, and that kind of stuff. So I started it with an homage to Lovecraft, and the fact that I wanted to end it with an homage to Lovecraft. And CJ's story is like, if you like Lovecraft, if you read CJ's story and I replaced CJ's name with H.P. Lovecraft, you would not be able to tell the difference. His uses of the usage of the language, the words, how he structures the sentences, the setting, just all of it it could pass for a Lovecraft story. It was just a tremendous story. And like you said, Wolfshield, the most Lovecraftian part of it is at the end of the story. When you're sitting there in silence thinking about the implications of the story itself is when you get that feeling of dread. It's like that all of the threads are kind of out here, out and about. At the very end, they all tie in together, and you're kind of like hit with this like feeling of weird dread in your body. And you close the book and you set it down, and you're like, oh shit. You know what I mean?
That was
So I loved
perfect.
it.
It was
That's
a perfect
classic
way to end it.
Lovecraft.
Okay,
If you
so
like
he
that
does that.
feeling
He
of
does
like
that fairly
existential
often.
angst.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
So good.
Good stuff. Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna move on to number 5, which was Lex and the Horror at Burnwick Hollows.
Okay.
All right, so that's the third Lex story that I've read so far, and I really enjoyed. I would say I enjoyed the. I see. I'm like kind of like very dialogue. I love dialogue, you know, and I think that your Lex stories have been kind of missing on the dialogue aspect to a certain degree. But I think the first half of it, the dialogue between Lex and the girl or whatever, I forget what her name is, was really enjoyable to read, and I felt like I was really getting to know this character much better than in the other stories. Like I was really engrossed by that. So I think dialogue is probably the number one thing that I look for when I'm kind of looking at how I'm going to rate these stories. There are multiple things like story and like world building and blah blah blah, but for me, dialogue's the most important thing that I enjoy when I'm reading a book. But yeah, like I really felt like we were finally sort of getting to know Lucius Lex as a character. I found that quite enjoyable.
I love Lucius Lex so much.
Oh yeah.
He's like such a great character. And just to like walk back a little bit, I do want to share this. This is the image from C.J. Miller's story. Wait, I can't. I'm sorry. I'm like, ooh. Yeah, Donald Kent did all these images, and they're really awesome. And I actually won one of them at an auction that we did recently, and I'll get to that when we get to that point. I'll show you guys that as well. But back to Lucius Lex, I wanted to read my favorite line from this story because I marked it because it was just really cool. And it's like the perfect description of this character. So, but I'm going to read that really quick. But what drives this man is not of this world. His soul was shaped upon an anvil of wrath and tempered in hateful hellfire, burning with calamitous rage of 1,000 suns, last of the Tiverian order. When men have nightmares, they see devils. When devils have nightmares, they see Lucius Lex.
That was really good. Yeah, that was a great
I
line.
love that. I just saw that and I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta mark this because that was just awesome. But
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I really enjoy your Lucius Lex stories, but I do feel like I don't have like a very clear sense of world building in it yet. Like each story kind of like hops around and like I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I do really enjoy it, but I think like each story is like completely different and doesn't like sort of pick up any of
They're
the.
episodic.
They're very episodic, and
Yeah, that's the point. It's not really the stories are about the adventure, right? It's about the adventure and the action and all that kind of stuff. And then as far as like the world gets built as you read the stories. You learn like there's little Easter eggs and stuff like that. I don't just make it up. I have an entire Lucius Lex's world is like entirely built. I modeled him very much after like a Conan or a Solomon Kane, where it's like it's just about the adventure and the world building is kind of secondary, and dialogue is secondary as well. Lucius Lex is there to slaughter monsters and do badass stuff, and everything else is kind of secondary.
You know, I was wondering if like maybe for your next volume you could put like maps at the beginning of the book.
Oh yeah.
Like cuz there's a lot of different like worlds, like fantasy alternative worlds that people are starting to create and build and you know yeah, I think it would be cool if you could put like a series of like maps uh for each person's like fantasy world at
All
the
right, so
beginning.
they could like visualize the places where these characters.
Yeah, that's always like I read a lot of fantasy stuff, and I'm like literally like every 5 pages I'm going back to the map to just kind of like study it and figure out like where they're at, where they're going, what are they mentioning. So I think that'd be
If
kind
you
of
know
cool
your
if you could
audience
do
at all, like Spurgy guys are obsessed with maps. So there you go.
that. Yeah, yeah, I'm a little bit autistic,
So,
but
quick question before we move on: why did you like that one better than Odd Village? Because most people actually liked Odd Village better.
I like the Odd Village, but I think what I really liked about the second one was the first half of it with the dialogue. That to me, I was very engrossed in actually sort of him interacting with the character, and you getting more of an idea of Lucius as a character. Because I don't really, feel like I know Lucius as a character very well until I kind of, got to that section there.
I like that the end of that one, it showed that he's not just like a tough, beastly man in body, but also in mind. Because at the end, the girl's like, "Hey, you can stay in my bed if you want," and he is like, "No, I must go." And
Yeah, I don't want I don't want to
he was
make
like,
a
"If I
bastard.
return and you're still hot, then maybe."
That's right. Yeah.
Sigma grind set.
Right, exactly.
He's just a total Chad. He's like got a really strong will, and yeah, it's funny. I love that.
But he was being a nice guy because it's like
Yeah.
he's like if we do this, I could knock you up, and if I bounce, and then you ain't get no husband, and then you can't.
Right,
You know,
yeah.
You can't,
There
nobody's
is
gonna run your business.
he's like a kind of a monster of a man, but there's also humanity to him, and I think that
Yeah.
you strike the right sort of balance with this character
Thank you.
between
Yeah,
being
for
a
sure.
monster and being human.
I agree. I definitely agree with that.
Yeah. All right, so we'll go. Oh, I didn't. I have to say I didn't like the very end of it. I was kind of a little like
Why?
the last little bit with the I don't want to give spoilers away, but I was just like, but what was the point of it all then? I was a little annoyed. But I think that's probably the feeling you're supposed to get because this is like a terrible world, like
Yup.
from what I understand.
Hmm.
But I was also just like, no. After all this, it like was for naught. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's not all
But,
daisies and sunshine all the time, you know?
All right. All right. So we'll move on to number 4, which was The Crypt of St. Peter's Hollow by Robert C. Booth, right? So this one, I really enjoyed this one a lot because it was the first Bizarre and the only one really where even though there were some other sequels, but it was the only one where it felt like it was like a true continuation of a story. Like you brought back like multiple characters, you played off of multiple like story like bits from the first one. It felt like a genuine sort of like continuation of a story that I really enjoyed reading that one because it was like felt like you're coming back into like this world and having all like greeting all these characters you had met before and everything. And it was a big improvement over the first one too. It was longer, and the story was more like fleshed out. There was like like a real mystery, and like his interactions with different characters felt very very intriguing. And then there was a twist at the end, and then also like oh, this isn't finished, that like that there's more coming. I really liked the way it was all structured and whatnot.
Yeah, I like the kind of cliffhanger at the end where it's like it leaves you wanting to know more and stuff. And I love things to do with like the supernatural. I love possession type stories, the occult, anything to do with that kind of stuff. It just grabs my attention from the get go. So it's like kind of a supernatural, almost. I don't know. It's not necessarily like a thriller, but it was supernatural. It turned into like a mystery, and then it went back into. It's just there's like those elements throughout, and it just. I thought it was written in a really interesting way. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, and there were.
And I love
there
your
were,
top hat too.
right?
Yeah,
Somebody in the
it's
comments
awesome.
was like, "So many black hats." um, but there are sequels in this volume 2, but this one was the only one that really felt like a sequel to me, because like I said, like that you brought back not just your main character, but like a bunch of different characters, and even just like little minor characters from the first one, made references to it and whatnot. And also, like, there was certain plot points that were kind of built on and continued, like the thing that was going on in his head, from which was, and I don't even remember exactly, like, what exactly happened in the first one. Something happened with that
The Hiraeth tried to claim his soul, and it's left a mark on him.
And just like,
we'll elaborate more in future installments.
Yeah, that's great. And it really felt like just him sort of interacting with this demonic entity, and then him having that like feeling in the back of his head. And I really enjoyed that quite a bit. It felt very different, like, from all the other stories, because it felt like a true continuation of a world for me. Like Dave Martel, he always brings back Lex, but he's never brought back any other sort of minor characters from the other story, or even the one that Tan wrote. I don't think he brought back any characters from besides the main character. But yeah, I found that one really enjoyable. Let's see. I do think I would like to see Ruben sort of fleshed out like a little bit more. I think he's a pretty interesting character, but you could kind of give him like a few more, I don't know, idiosyncrasies or whatever. Just a thought. So we'll go down to number 3. To play the hero. Unfortunately, we didn't have Emir Tan. He couldn't join us on the show today, but I'm pretty disappointed about that, because he is just like an absolutely phenomenal writer. Like, I think he like that. I don't know. So this was like the longest one out of all of them. It was like almost 30 pages long or something like that. How long was that, Dave? Do you know?
I don't think it was 30 pages. I think we're talking. Somebody has the book. I couldn't tell you, but it's I do believe it was the longest story.
And I really enjoyed that. Like, I like, like, there was time to, like, that's why I enjoy like everybody making much longer stories, because it's like time to get into like the characters and have these interactions and whatnot. But
It was like
really
27 or 28 pages.
Oh, really?
I
guess it was.
What
was that? What was that, Robert?
Oh, so I counted 25 pages just now.
Oh,
just
sorry.
quickly.
I can count, I swear. I wasn't thinking of the images, though, the drawings and stuff, too.
I think, in my opinion, this might have been the best written out of all the stories. Just the way with the character Bearfriend, who's a really interesting character. He's like this half elf, half human character, right? Is that right, or is he just an elf?
He's half man, half elf.
Okay, right. The story is relatively simple-ish, but it's all very engaging. He's just on a boat. It just kind of takes place on a boat, and they I don't even think there's any sort of like supernatural elements in or whatever. They just have they're being like followed by like people, and they're trying to figure out like who's doing it and who's the rat on the ship.
Traitor.
Who's the traitor, exactly. So it's a very kind of simple story, but like it really feels like there's all this like references to his past. Like, he has this history with this girl, and they can't be together, but they want to be, and like I think it was quite fun to read.
Yeah, it's a
sure.
good like sort of like action adventure kind of.
It was
voyage, like a voyage type of story. I'm really bad with genres, but
yeah, it was like an action adventure.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of great dialogue. It was a good like mixture of dialogue and action. I think some of the stories kind of had like too much like description of action, but I think you got to find that right sort of balance, and this one did. But yeah, it was great.
I actually thought that story had too much dialogue.
Oh no, I didn't.
Yeah, I really don't like in stories if characters are talking too much, or because I when I read stories, I like the action. I like the
See, I'm kind of the
you can see
opposite of that.
Yeah, so that's why we have those stories in there. I don't pick
There's something
stories.
for everybody.
Yeah, I don't pick stories based on my own. If I pick stories on my own biases, it would literally just be like action, sword and sorcery.
Like it would
gore,
all be
and
that
horror.
Grim and the Serpent story.
Yeah, that would be it. I love Grim and Serpent. I thought that was like one of my favorites in the.
I mean, it was a fun book and everything, but there was no dialogue in it, and that's
Don't need to be. It's a
Well,
Viking,
it
and he
gets a-
fights a sea serpent. That's all you need.
I can't. It doesn't engage me as much when it's just sort of describing action. I think you got to find the right balance of it, in my opinion.
I think it's mainly a preference thing. But like I said, I make sure that we and it's not just me. I've been getting these guys involved with story selection and everything too. AC and MS Jones have been excellent with helping pick stories. It's been important to me to get the authors involved with constructing the books themselves and kind of put their like kind of their flavor into it and get them invested, because they invest in the book with their stories, and they're big brains, and I'd like to get them involved. So and also I like one thing, I mean, as far as like everything in my taste palette across the board for everything, I only enjoy one or two things, and everything else is boring to me. Like music, I like 80s metal and like some dungeon synth and like Dean Martin, and like everything else sucks to me. So it's like I got to make sure that I'm picking things that are going to appeal to somebody like you, Wolfshield, that likes the character building and the dialogue and stuff like that. Whereas I, like, for example, Emra's story to play a hero, I couldn't get through it. I'll be honest, it's brilliantly written. He's a great writer. He is a great writer. I'm not saying that he's a bad writer. Me personally, I probably wouldn't have read that story. I made it through the first couple pages, and then I skipped ahead to the ending, and that's
Really, because I just like devoured it voraciously or serious. What is the word I'm looking for?
Voraciously?
Voraciously, yeah. I read it all in one sitting. Like I just was like just hammered it out. Like it was probably one of the fastest ones I read actually.
Really?
Dave's not a fan of epic fantasies.
I'm really
Me
not.
and him don't get on.
Well, that's my bread and butter there. I love that stuff.
I thought it was great, but like I think for me personally, like taste wise, I like it when the scenery changes, and even though they were like on a ship that was traveling, it was like they were still always like the whole thing pretty much took place on the ship. You know what I mean? So for me, it's like the dialogue was interesting enough to make that work, but it's rare for that to be the case for me personally. I was able to get through it, and I thought it was great. But it's not easy to do that. I feel like it wouldn't be easy to do that as a writer, because just like when I'm watching a movie, if the whole film takes place in like one room or one house, I'm just like, I usually get pretty bored.
I'm terrified because my story has one location.
Oh no!
Almost no dialogue and no action.
Well,
yeah.
Hey, I'm sure it'll be great.
Listen, you didn't make it
Don't
onto
listen
the
to me.
list, Aaron, Gieson, but you definitely would have been number 7. I probably should have started with number 7. I really did enjoy your story quite a bit. It was definitely number 7 for me. Although I did find it quite confusing. I think that was probably why I kind of it didn't quite make it as high. I think you got definitely like a talent, and I'm definitely excited to see what you got coming. But yeah, it was kind of confusing for me. I don't know. I'm not really like a sci-fi guy. That's also another problem. I very much prefer the fantasy stuff.
Is it cool if we touch on his story real quick?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's
First, yeah. Well, I disagree with Wolfshield. I thought Aaron's story was actually one of my favorites.
Thanks.
Yeah, it was. It has everything I like. It's a weird sci-fi kind of setting. It's not too long. I didn't think it was confusing. I thought it was very I thought it was really to the point, and I enjoyed the brevity in the story. Like I said, it's not too long.
It was.
really-
I don't know. It was kind of. That was another thing that I didn't like was how short it was. Also,
yeah,
It was
I,
my
I
first
like
that's not a
short
problem.
books.
It's not really a problem. Everybody has their own like top 5. You know, this is just.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
just kind of going through the story, like the
And-
different.
Oh,
things.
I don't need to be on the
And
list.
also, it is a train wreck where a dude in space goes nuts, and it has a horrible train wreck ending, and that's just like my shit.
I don't do good endings like at all.
I thought
I'm
that
gonna
was
have
a
to
never
read
do
that.
it.
I didn't get to read yours yet, but I'm definitely gonna read that one next. So it's on my next
Yeah.
to read
So
list.
I go with
it's
misery,
a
like,
real-
it
it's a
doesn't
real
make you feel.
gut
It's
I
what?
see what you're saying.
It's a real gut punch, that ending. I really like the ending. You know, the character gets nothing that he wants, and I'll not spoil it any further. But that's
Yeah,
what
that's.
you'd
I don't
expect
know.
in a
That
story
kind
like
of.
that one.
It left me with such a like kind of a hollow feeling. I was just like,
That's
oh.
what I was going
like-
for.
I like how the
Perspective.
captain is such a dirtbag.
Who's it? What's a dirtbag?
I like how the captain character is such a dirtbag.
I don't see him as a dirtbag, but I can see why others would. It's semi-autobiographical. Every time I write,
What?
I always put myself in the characters.
You've like
You in your car.
you've wanted to do like space terrorism. Is that?
I mean,
is that-
no.
I've really got to read this.
Temperament wise. Feds will be knocking on my door. The space feds will be knocking on my door soon.
Trump's Space Force will be showing up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We'll hop on to number 2, which was The Crypt of Carnan Way by A. Cuthberts.
Yeah, that's me.
However you pronounce your last name. How do you pronounce that?
Cuthbertson.
Okay, Cuthbertson. Okay.
Yes. No,
It's kind of better if you say it with a British accent. Cuthbertson. Yeah.
yes.
What a incredible start of a new world. Like, I am intrigued. Like,
Thank you.
really excited to see where this is going to go. I think this is also one of possibly the darkest story that I've read out of all the Bizarchives, just because the main character is so like there's like he's kind of trying to save the world, but he has like no humanity left.
Yeah, he's struggling with that. That's going to be one of his chief struggles.
Yeah, like fantastic. Like, I am so intrigued by the world building of this, and then like this at the end, like the introduction of this like other character that that's kind of, I guess, the opposite of him.
The recurring character.
Yeah, both trying to do their own thing to save the world, but he's like much more evil. He's like,
yeah. I've been playing with the idea of like a necromancer protagonist for a long time, thinking of ways to make it work. Because
no, it worked.
We're all fantasized. We can all acknowledge that necromancers are really cool.
I don't
This
know.
is actually probably my favorite that I've read so far, because I haven't read them all. And it's hard to. I hate picking favorites because they're all so good in their own ways. Like, everyone's
I don't
so
mind
talented.
being kind of an asshole.
I
and,
know
like,
you
telling
don't,
people-
but I do. Anyways, I'm just joking. But seriously, so it's funny because this actually ended up being like probably my favorite that I've read so far. And like I was mentioning earlier, I won that drawing from Donald Kent in that auction, and it just so turns out that it went with this story, and I didn't know that when I won it.
That's
and
great.
then I read it, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. And it's like, I love the idea of a necromancer protagonist, like you were saying.
Anti-hero.
Yeah, but he is like a hero in a way, because he's trying to do good, but like he's just doing it in his own way. It's not. It's like it's that gray area, you know. And I just thought that like a lot of the details were really cool when he's talking about his like loyal servant, and there's like the maggots and worms crawling over his like dead eye. It's like so it's so vividly disgusting, but it's great at the same time.
Yeah,
Anyways,
there'll be
like
a lot of that.
yeah, here is the drawing that went with that, and this is the original that I was lucky enough to win, and I'm like super careful with because I'm paranoid I'm gonna.
That's awesome
I
that
was,
you
I was
like.
very tempted to get into a bidding war with you for that one.
AC's not happy about
spending
that.
200 quid on art right now, but I really wanted that.
Yeah, I've got to get a really nice frame for it because I'm super paranoid that I'm gonna like accidentally trip and spill something on it, even though I have it in this place that I like never walk, just so that I won't do that. It'll just be something where, yeah, I don't know, super paranoid. So I'm gonna get a really nice frame for it very soon. But I was just thought that was a really cool
Coincidence.
synchronicity. Yeah.
Yeah, that your what happens to be your favorite story is what you actually got
That's the
the
image I
artwork
was
for.
drawn to in of all of the ones in the auction. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
And
there's
is there
more coming.
is there a sequel? Like, is there a follow up to that story forthcoming in the next issue of Bizarchives? Maybe.
There better be.
Yeah, that's what I was just saying. The follow-up's coming in Bizarchives 3, the Blood Countess. There is also a further one written, which I hope will go into Bizarchives 4. And I'm writing the fourth, basically.
Fantastic.
About halfway through the fourth. I do have like a
Fantastic.
full arc planned out. I've got a map in mind, but nothing written yet. So you'll love this when it's finished.
That's great.
Is this set in
Gotta get
an
that map.
alternate world?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, we need to get like maps, people.
Yeah.
I vote for maps
Exactly. I'm big into that.
and overarching storylines as well.
Oh yeah. Definitely. That's like, yeah, super excited for that.
Brilliant.
Okay. What was that?
I just said brilliant. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it was brilliant. Like I really like just, the amount of like fascinating world building you were able to like throw into your first, story. It's really fantastic.
Cheers.
Okay, so number one, we're at number one. Ooh, what will it be? Da-da. I'm sure everybody kind of will be able to figure out, but the Dune Lord's Dreaming. Number
Oh,
one.
Yay!
Oh my god. Incredible. Perfect story, just magnificent ending, fantastic dialogue. Like it was literally like it was incredible. I don't even know what to say. It was so good. Yeah.
What was your favorite thing about that story? Why did you pick that
everything.
one? Literally everything.
Well,
that's
just
helpful.
just like in the beginning, the dialogue with the main character haggling with that one dude, like that was really fun and engaging for me. I really enjoyed that. Like that just alone, was got me into it. I'm like, ooh, let's go. This is and then like you had some action in the middle, fighting off like undead an undead army across the desert or whatever, and then you ended it with like this twist, and like
I loved the ending so much of that story. It was great.
it really like I remember like the way I thought it was gonna end. I forget exactly like there was this like point at the story where I thought like it had reached its natural conclusion. And I can't remember exactly where it was, but I'm just like, okay, well that was good. And then I thought it was the end, and then like I turned the page and like there was more. And I was just like, what the hell? You kind of are. This is where it should have ended. I can't remember. I have to reread it, but I remember thinking like, what? You're kind of ruining the ending you had here by continuing on. What was that?
I blame my editor for that, because I think where you think it ended, that's originally where it ended, and everyone's like, yeah, but we need to know what actually happened after that. So
that was my fault.
No, what the story continued. Like I turned the page, I thought that was the end, and then like there was more. There was a couple pages more. I'm like, what's going on here? And then once it actually got to like the final ending, I was just like, holy shit, that is incredible. That was like.
Yeah, that ending was a stroke of genius.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. I love the like just the mention of it's the blood spice, right? I have that right.
Yep.
That's like that piqued my curiosity. I'm like, what is this? Is he playing off Dune, or is this like, something else? What's going on? And then by the end, obviously I'm not going to give it away, but then it just you kind of figure out what it is, and then you're like, wait, why that? Why is that so important? And then it's just It's great. I love that that whole idea.
Just
It's awesome.
just by far, I think the most perfectly structured short story I've ever read. Honestly.
God, yeah, it's just too much to live up to. I can't do that again.
Well, I don't know. Like, sorry, hard to say. Actually, you might not be able to.
Hey, that's not true. You set the bar
But
high,
it's
but
so
you can
good.
always
It's
you can
great.
always top that.
I'm
Yeah,
trying.
it's
You've
I'm
awesome.
trying.
peaked, mate. Wrap it up. It's fine. You've peaked.
Yeah, it's all downhill from here.
I'm gonna retire now.
It's only issue number 2.
Just leave on a high
though.
note
I
like George
disagree.
Costanza.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't think that was very much of a high note.
Yeah, but
No, that was just a one-off. But
it was,
because
you know,
people
and
seem
it
to like
didn't.
it.
It didn't need more, you know. Like you don't want more. Like I think to make a sequel to it would ruin it, you know. Honestly.
Oops. Well,
Wait, what?
there's not a sequel, but there are parallel stories that all
Okay,
tie in together.
okay. That works. You know, a parallel story. I think because this really is quite a fascinating world you've built there in just like a short amount of time. It felt really like fully realized. Like the idea that so the idea is that they're these like I don't know. Can you explain it, MS Jones? Like these undead soldiers that like their city. They were like I don't know.
They're like
can you explain it?
cursed.
Kind of.
Yeah, there was way back in ancient times. There was a empire, and they were being invaded. So the emperor gathered his children together to enact a ritual that would destroy the invaders. But it went wrong, and he destroyed his own empire, destroyed his own family, and each of them has a separate curse. So the June Lord, who was one of the sons, he was turned into a living, a revenant, a living dead. And the blood spice, it's like retroactive, but you'll find out in a future story where the blood spice comes from.
Okay,
And
cool.
what-
Yeah, but just the
Yeah.
idea that like there's these people who were like they were like given this 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 superhuman ability so that they would be able to protect this like immortality essentially, so they could protect the city that was under siege, but then like the city actually like got completely destroyed, so now they're just like stuck throughout time to like just kind of wander the desert, just kind of not sure what to do with themselves, and they're like rotting. Their bodies are starting to rot, but they can't die, and they're just like, what do we even do with ourselves? Yeah, it was really
I got the
incredible.
blood spice, that makes it all worthwhile,
Exactly. Yeah, I don't want to really spoil this one too much. You have to read it. Everyone, like, go out, like,
Buy
go
Bizarchives issue
buy
number 2.
this.
Yeah.
This is like 100% worth. It's not even that expensive. It's like what, $12, $13?
Yeah, it's so
Yeah.
worth
It's on
it.
it's on the
Worth it.
cover as well.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
Dream More
exactly.
Dreaming is on the cover of the thing.
Yeah. So
So,
this
so
is,
Hiraeth, I actually bought Don's original as well in the auction.
You
Oh,
did?
that's right.
Awesome. Nice.
Yeah, I had to.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was like, he had it next to like the cover. He's like, "Don't talk to me or my son anymore," or whatever. Yeah,
Here's another one. Oh, I don't know if
yeah.
you can see
from the
that.
beginning. Yeah.
This
I'll
guy,
buy
Donald
one
Kemp,
when
is a
I win the
great
lottery.
artist.
Yeah, he's
He
great.
is.
Yeah, very much so. But the amount of bang for your buck you're getting, and you're supporting like all these base dudes. It's like, you're gonna enjoy it. Like you're gonna find something you're gonna enjoy in this for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I agree.
Yeah. So I think I'm gonna ask the writers some questions now, so we can get to know these writers. I think a lot of these writers are, haven't really been too public. They don't have too much like social media or go on too many shows or whatever. But I really want to have this opportunity for them to kind of.
Because they're busy writing.
Exactly right. Exactly. They got
They're
better
busy
things
world
to
building
do.
and stuff. Yeah. So that we
Much
can all
better
enjoy them.
than wasting time on Twitter or whatever.
Yes. Oh my gosh. 1,000 times better.
It's gonna last a lot longer than some dumb tweet. All right, so I'm not exactly sure how I want to structure this. Should I ask like one question, then everybody go around and answer that question, or should I ask one person all 4 questions?
Ask everybody the same question, or I mean, if you have a question that applies to everyone, I would do
Yeah,
that.
it's a universal kind of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just do a
I'll
question and do round robin, so everybody gets
Yeah.
round robin.
talk.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
like that idea.
So, okay, so I got 2 questions here. I think I'm going to put these together so you can answer both these questions, I think, at the same time. So, what is your history of writing, and how did you get involved with Bizarchives? We'll just start. We'll just start from Robert Booth, then go to A. Cuthbertson, then Aaron, then MS Jones, and C.J. Miller. We'll just kind of do it like how it looks on the screen. All right. So, Robert, what is your history of writing, and how did you get involved with Bizarchives?
Well, I've spent most of my right lifing. That's what I've done.
You can write, but you can't talk, huh?
I spent most of my life writing. It was always my favorite thing at school to do. I always loved writing stories and that kind of thing. And I left school without much in the way of any kind of direction, but I messed around with stories for about a decade. I wrote the odd thing here and there, and then suddenly I saw Dave's advert on Facebook, and this segues into the next question actually. And I saw the advertisement, and it was the kick up the, can I say arse? Yeah,
Yeah, you can swear.
To actually finish a story and write it to a decent standard. So I started the Valkyria for Drew Moore, and it went through several revisions. I got some help from Gregory K. Attree, also a Bizarchives writer. He was very helpful, and in the end, I managed to get published with Bizarchives, and it was an amazing breakthrough for me because as a writer, I'm guessing a lot of people will be able to sympathize on the dissident right. I didn't really think there was much of a future in writing for me because the publishing house is obviously a very left wing, and I thought any writing I do will be for myself and probably won't get much further. But when Dave advertised for Bizarchives, I saw a bit of a silver lining.
Where did you see that? Like you saw him advertise for it, or
yeah, on just a Facebook post. I've been a Facebook friend of Dave's for several years, and it just appeared, and I don't know what it was. I mean, I've had several things in the past which I haven't responded to in the same way, but this, I don't know. I must have sensed that it was the right direction to go in. So I got working, finished the story, and to my own amazement, I was publishing the Bizarchives.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you got involved because I love the Reuben Bennett saga, so to speak.
Yeah, I love the style of your stories too. Like it seems like almost like it's a period kind of piece. Like just the description of the attire of your character with the top hat and everything. I thought it was really cool. I loved that. It's probably like one of my favorite things about it, to be honest. I liked it set itself apart from some of the other stories just by the style alone, style of the characters, the way, the darkness of them. They're all very serious, but like it fits with even what they wear, just down to that
very
detail.
like Victorian Gothic folk horror.
Yes,
kind of
exactly. I love that. I think that was really cool.
Yeah, I think you're the only author who's kind of done it in that era, right? That I can think of. Yeah, but it's great, like having like like an old revolver along with the old timey Victorian stuff. Adds a lot of character.
That's contemporary for him because he still lives in the 1800s.
Right, he's time traveled to us. All right. Yeah, I think we'll move on to A. Cuthbertson. Do you want the questions again, or do you got it?
I got it, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so my history with writing is pretty similar to Rob's by the sound of it. I always enjoyed it more than anything in school. I played at it for a while, but didn't really seriously sit down and get anything down until about 2018. Started trying to chip away at like way too ambitious like novels and stuff, which still remain unfinished, and then got into the short story game, which is what all new authors should start with. During the coronavirus lockdowns, funny enough, in 2020, I wrote Tanner's Gold and submitted it to Dave. I was on Telegram, just for reasons, and then I saw Dave's advert be shared by Antelope Hill Publishing, like the first short story call. And I think I was the first or second guy to submit a story to you, right, Dave?
First one.
First
Oh,
one.
really?
Yeah,
Right
nice.
before, yeah, submitted Tanner's Gold, which was in Bizarchives 1. That was kind of laying around. I wrote it initially like in first person, like it appears in Bizarchives 1. Submitted it to another magazine. They wanted it in third person, which was really weird. So I just I did rewrite it in third person, but I hated it so much that I just
Okay. Can you hate writing in third person? You said.
No, I like writing in third person. Just that
Okay.
particular story was a first person story in my mind. So I
Yeah,
just
that's
sat on it and then submitted to Dave.
Your Crypt of Carnway, that was in third person, right?
Yeah. I've got nothing against third person writing. I really do like it, but
Yeah.
that story.
I definitely much prefer third person over first person. I think you mostly write in first person, right? Though, like
the Cosmic Horror double features all first person. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of first person, but yeah,
It's very Lovecraft, that kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like I must describe how I am going mad, kind of deal. Yeah, it doesn't work so well in third person, I don't think.
Mhm.
But yeah, for things like fantasy and epic fantasy, I would go third person. Definitely.
Gotcha. So yeah, that's awesome. You are like truly the OG author of Bizarchives, then, since you got there first.
Yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah, you jumped on it.
Let me tell you, AC was the first guy to submit, and it was like the first few days that I put the call out, I didn't get anything, right? And I was like,
how did you feel after like the first few days and you didn't get anything? Were you kind of discouraged?
Yeah, I was. I was like, you know what? Maybe this ain't gonna work or whatever. Maybe people just aren't really writing like they used to. Maybe I'll just write something myself. I don't know. And I got his email. And I read Tanner's Gold. I adore that story. Tanner's Gold might be my favorite in Bizarchives 1 still. And it was like the first story. I like them all, but that one is just like up my alley with like the kind of story it is. And after I read his story, I was like, okay, this can work. And like the next day after that, I got like a bunch of submissions. And then I got MS Jones submission and Robert's submission. And I just got like a bunch. These guys are like some of the first ones to submit. So after I read these guys, I was like, okay, we can do this. So these guys were, they were the ones that kind of drove Bizarchives into manifesting because, if the first stories I got were probably like things that weren't so good, I might have given up early. But these guys, yeah, they're part of the success of Bizarchives.
100%. Yeah, that's why I really wanted to, give them a chance to shine on this show because, they are couldn't do it without you guys. Obviously.
Yeah, they are the pillars of the project, and also AC's book, Cosmic Horror Double Feature. And I'm going to tell you this: they're both great stories. That is an excellent book, and also it's less than $10 American. If you like anything spooky or horror, you have to have a copy of that book. Dredge is a tremendous. I'm sorry, Hiraeth.
You're fine.
Dredge is a tremendous story. Presswick's Project, the second story in the book, is my favorite non-Lovecraft cosmic horror story. Period. And I'm not just saying that because it's ours. I'm sorry, Hiraeth. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, and that's available on Amazon, right?
Yeah.
Or where is that available?
Yep, it's on Amazon. You can go to thebizarchives.com and click on the image, and it'll take you to the thing.
Yep, I got all three right here.
Oh yeah,
nice.
Also, we got Buck Rogers out now. We got a new book out.
That's right.
Yep.
We'll talk about those projects and future projects at the end. But yeah. All right. Should we move on to Aaron Gieson then?
Yeah. History of writing. Yeah. So when I was in year 2, which is age 7, I think, you have your first round of SAT exams, they're called in Britain, and I had to write a story based on a cartoon that I didn't like, so I just wrote my own story and I failed. So my first educational go at writing was a fail, and then. So that kind of set me off to being I guess a bit rebellious with writing. So then when I was about 20, I started writing lots of poetry because I was very emotional. And I say that with disdain now, but so it was a lot of floral, girly stuff. Yes. So some of it was good. Some of it was based off like.
Hey, I like
old myths and
poetry.
stuff. Some of it's good.
I
But
can't
anyways,
do it. I really can't do poetry.
well, I don't anymore. I'm retired from poetry. So. But anyways,
Good.
I would submit all the time to things, and never anything got in. There was a publishing house near where I live that I loved the name of, and I liked the project. And when I went to submit, I saw on the website it was like must have been to university, must know people in the circle.
Oh my god.
And I was like, oh. So I wrote them a very long email, just talking shit about them and saying like, "Yous are completely deadening your pool of artists. Like, you're not gonna get any new or interesting things." I didn't get a reply. So I then I'd sort of like half stopped writing, and then AC got in touch about the Midgard Institute, which is the sort of, I guess, like sister program, I guess, to the Bizarchives, and said they're doing they do like a per season poetry thing. So I submitted to that, and it got on. So I was like, oh cool, I can write.
That was your first published thing?
Yeah. And then I thought, well, why not? I'll give the Bizarchives a go. So the story I wrote for Bizarchives, There Ain't No Pleasing You, was my first prose piece probably since that exam that I failed. So in retrospect, I don't love it. I've reread it and I do like it. I like the concept still.
Which one?
The one that's in Bizarchives too.
Okay, gotcha.
I love the concept still, because the concept was in my mind for a long time.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't love the writing style. I think I have improved quite a lot in my following 2 submissions. One of them's not even been submitted yet, but yeah, I'll get to that later. But like, yeah, that's pretty much it. And then lo and behold, it got in. I was like, oh, cool, great. And then yeah, that's it.
That's kind of inspiring though, because like it makes me actually think of one of my favorite science fiction authors, Philip K. Dick. I have like a thing about him, about his life, and apparently like he had some professors tell him he sucked. He was like, he thought he sucked, he was told he sucked, he was like, it was like he didn't go by the books or whatever, or he didn't have the format you were supposed to have, and he was turned down by like these teachers. They didn't think he was ever going to amount to anything. And then he ends up being like one of the greatest science fiction authors who has like the best short stories. All these different movies were made after his stories. And I just think that's like it's really cool. Cause sometimes when you go buy these like structure, college type formats, it makes it really stale and boring. And it loses that, almost that fire of like originality, So I like stories like yours where you may not have succeeded by the books in a way, but then you were able to get published.
You forged your own path.
Exactly.
Yeah, yes. I like breaking rules. I break a lot of them. I think in that story I break like tense rules. I switch from present tense to past tense to present. I don't know. At some point I switched the tenses. I don't know if anyone noticed, but like I was hoping they would. But like, anyways. I like breaking rules.
I think it's part of it because like time's all warped, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the idea. Yeah.
I got it. So someone got it, mate.
Thank you.
I guess I'm too dumb. All right, Mr. MS Jones, let's hear you.
Oh God, how long have you got?
Got all day, baby.
I think I'm probably maybe the most experienced of the group. By that I mean old. So
you don't sound old.
Oh, I am. Okay.
How old is old? Like 40?
That's young for me.
Oh, really?
No age doxing.
So, back in the 70s.
What's your birthday exactly?
Back in the 70s when basic Dungeons and Dragons came out, so I got into that. I've always been like a fan of fantasy, and you do your DMing and you're making up the world, or you do your characters and this kind of stuff. So I read Tolkien, Michael Moorcock, stuff like that, but I had it in my head that writing was something that other people did. So I get good marks in English. I'd always be writing little stories about weird stuff, and you get good marks. But you knew if you'd written a literary description of the picture rather than writing a story about it, you would have got better marks. But I did that, so I just put it aside and did my studies, started working. This is around the 1990s, 2000s. And I always carried notebooks around with me and I would be jotting down ideas, but the idea of actually finishing something never really came to fruition.
So like how long were you like carrying around this notebook with just like random ideas? You got like a bunch of notebooks.
40 years?
What?
Probably about.
How many
I have a
notebooks you
rather
got?
large
Like
pile
just like
of notebooks. Oh, I have a huge collection.
oh my god, that's awesome. So much to draw from for future stories.
So
Great.
I basically got on with life, did my studies, got jobs, got married, settled down, and then when my daughter was born, so I ended up doing the early morning feed. So I'd be waking up at like 5 a.m, and I'd have to leave for work at 8, and I had nothing to do, and it wasn't worth going back to bed. So I thought, well, let's give this a go. So I basically started writing, and then that was, the Chronicles of Heraldry, which we might come to later. And I thought I'm doing it okay, and I started going to writers' conferences in the UK. And I was getting good feedback, but it was like, no one's offering me a contract or anything. And this is, say, the 2010s, when the social justice people were taking over science fiction and fantasy publishing. So I witnessed that firsthand.
Yeah, it's so bad
like,
now.
Oh,
Like
yeah,
I've seen like in the biographies, like at the back of a book, right? They're like putting their pronouns in like fantasy, like just random books that I've like picked up off the shelf and looked at the biography. They're literally putting their pronouns in that now. So bad.
Yeah, we have to give a shout out to the greatest science fiction writer of all time, Ms. N.K. Jessamine.
All hail
Hugo
NK.
Awards.
I mean, she is an award-winning author, much like my.
Not so many books, but come on, she did what Hyman couldn't do, Asimov couldn't do, Frank Herbert couldn't do it.
Oh God.
Yeah, she's better than Tolkien.
Who
better than Tolkien? Yeah.
has anybody actually
Space,
read
man.
that book?
I read an excerpt. It was terrible.
Yeah, like, it's so funny because like people like people will like who aren't really like I'll see people kind of complain be like, "What? I don't understand what's so good about this." Like you'll just see that online, like people who aren't really like fully cognizant of the racial politics.
Hey,
Like, I don't get it. Like, why is this winning so many awards?
The lesbian of color, man. You can't get better than that.
Right, exactly.
So anyway, that sort of put me off. I decided, well, I'll self-publish. So the first Mythicide book, I was like really hyped for it because I'd won the best opening chapter competition at a writing festival with that, and also I was runner-up in the British Science Fiction and Fantasy Society short story competition with an extract from it. So I was thinking, oh yeah. So I set up my Twitter account, my Facebook account. Did the cover, put it out there, and nothing happened. So sold about half a dozen copies to people that weren't my friends and family.
Really?
So that kind of hit me quite hard. I kept writing, kept my notebooks, but I don't give up on, writing as a career. And then one day I'm on Telegram and there's the patriotic art community who have monthly themes, like about summer or history, this kind of stuff. And I thought, I'll give that a go. So I started writing poetry for that. And one day, this somebody reposted this ad from for submissions for the Bizarchives. And I thought, well, so I continued with the Mythicide thing, and because of my I was becoming more nationalist. So I thought, well, make it more national because myths and legends, they have their roots in the country.
Mm-hmm.
The original book was like, you'd have mythical animals popping up here and there in different places, and there wasn't really that tied to the ground. So I thought, well, with the White Dragon, which was in the first Bizarchives, it's about King Arthur. It's intangible. There was a white dragon in the legends and this kind of stuff, and it's like a modern day character interacting with it.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
And so I sent that in, and one of these days I got this gruff voice message on Telegram telling me that it had been accepted, and sort of went from there, So,
Hold on. What was that? You got a voice message?
From gruff voice message.
From Dave? Yeah. I would love to have heard that. No, Dave, I love getting like voice messages from Dave. It's great.
Yeah, I like doing the voice messages because I get tired because I type all day long. Whether I'm writing or typing something up, and I just like talking better than writing. So I'd like to leave the voice messages. Apparently, there's some people that save voice messages from me and they keep them in archives and like share them later because I say weird things. But it's just off the cuff. I'm just saying what's on my mind at the time, and out of context, they sound terrible. So.
What
AC
That's
forwards me
ridiculous.
sometimes.
One of my
I've had
favorite,
many forwarded to me.
The wheelie bin saga. Of
Yeah, that's how I knew about it. That was creased.
You did a voice message. You posted it publicly on Telegram, and like you were like at the end of it, you were like struggling to remember the world is your oyster, and you were like, you kept saying like the clam is yours. Wait, how does this go? And then you finally or whatever. You were like struggling for like 30 seconds trying to remember.
I'm not good at remembering them things.
And then when you finally realized the oyster is yours, that you started laughing. Oh my God. I was at work and I just started like belly laughing like so loud when that was so funny. Yeah.
So a big shout out to Dave because he has done a lot for everyone here. He's given us a chance.
Yeah.
And he's made it work, and he's a fucking machine.
He's a force of
non-stop,
nature.
But I think you should stop with all this video game malarkey and concentrate on the books, okay?
No, he's a force of nature. You can't stop him. He can do everything. He will do everything.
I will.
Yeah.
Can't stop, won't stop.
He will. I can believe that.
Nice. All right, so I think we'll move on to CJ Miller then.
Well, I've been writing probably since I was about 5. I just never stopped. Obviously, most of that is not publishable and also no longer exists. But my main gig in terms of writing is translating. So 2020, I put out the Antelope Hill translations of Carl Schmitt, political theology and concept of the political, and then theory of the partisan. Unfortunately, those are no longer in circulation because there was a copyright issue with Carl Schmitt's estate, and so Antelope Hill had to pull those. But I'm still translating for them. I've just completed a major project, so watch for a surprise release from Antelope Hill on April 20th. I'm not at liberty to say exactly what it's going to be, but it's going to be huge. So
420. I wonder.
And then yeah, you can speculate all you want. I can't say exactly what it is, but I'll neither confirm nor deny.
Interesting.
Anyway, and then I have other translation projects with them coming down the pipe. And then my next fiction story is going to be, I haven't really started writing it yet, but to just sort of fleshed out like the plot, and it's going to be a folk horror story, an Odinic folk horror story, sort of in the same vein as Wicker Man, something like that. Oh. And I'll be looking to work with some knowledgeable pagans. So hopefully Mr. Martel can give me some input on that, and then maybe even give a platform for publishing it. So I'll put you right under the spotlight right now. That'll probably be in the next year or so.
That's the best way to get like a yes out of anybody is on a live stream. Ask them on a live stream, will you do this, please? Yeah.
I don't think that works for Dave though.
Yeah, I guess he's kind of impervious to, to stuff like that, I imagine.
No, I do the bullying.
Right, exactly.
That sounds awesome, though. I can't wait for that to be finished. I'd love to read something like that.
That's right up Hiraeth's alley.
It really is. Yeah.
All right, good deal. So we'll move on to the next question then. Very curious about this one. So, who are your biggest influences? And I really want to know what are Robert Booth's influences, because I can't quite place like what exactly this is coming from. It's almost like Sherlock Holmes-ish almost, but it's not quite. It's like its own sort of thing. So yeah, I'm very curious what you have to say.
He just opens the door and he's an Oliver Twist.
What was that? Who said that?
That was me. I said he opens his door and he's an Oliver Twist. So
right, that's right. He just writes about his present day life.
It is funny you should say that it's difficult to pin down my influences because, in answering this one, I realise it is actually quite difficult to pin down my influences. I do really enjoy the works of Dickens, but if only partially explains the kind of thing I write. I suppose I live in a kind of strange world of the paranormal, which sort of helps. I don't know what it is really. I mean, I just seem to naturally write in a quite Victorian style. I'm not really sure why that is, or I don't really understand it myself. But I suppose the main influences, I mean, you probably won't actually notice it a great deal in the writing because it's not as obvious as I thought it was. But and as politically unfashionable as it is on pretty much every side of the spectrum, but I quite like the works of J.K. Rowling.
Okay.
I know it seems quite a strange choice to talk about, but I suppose Stephen King as well, but there's not a great deal of obvious influences.
Yeah, I don't see any J.K. Rowling or Stephen King in your stories.
I suppose I'm me, which whether that's good or bad, I don't know, but I suppose I'm unique to myself.
That's
I can't really
good.
define.
It's a good thing.
Right. It really is its own sort of thing. It really, not being able to like put your finger on exactly what you're drawing from. That is
The trick to that is to have absolutely no clue what it is you're about to write when you sit down and start writing. Just sort of wing it the whole way and see what happens.
Nice. Okay. A Cuthbertson.
I'll be the first one from Bizarchives to say H.P. Lovecraft, believe it or not.
Of course.
I like that guy. He's awesome. I think Terry Pratchett too. I absolutely adore Terry Pratchett. Those sort of like comedic fantasy Discworld books. I grew up with all of those and I love them. And I will try my best to inject some humor into Command Corolla, and it'll basically all be Terry Pratchett's influence. Michael Moorcock, who I think MS Jones has mentioned, is also awesome. I'm trying to maybe structure the Corolla stories more like the Elric stories, where there is a massive world and there is an aim that he's trying to go for, but there's sort of gaps between the stories where anything might have happened, and then if Michael Moorcock fancied writing an Elric story decades in the future, which I believe he has, he can just write one and say, yep, it happened around then. I'm looking forward to doing more stuff with Corolla. I'd say those three probably the biggest. For Count Corolla, especially like the dark fantasy stuff, I'd have to go with like the Ravenloft, like Dungeons and Dragons setting, things like that, like super dark. If something dies, it just comes back to life because that's how dark it is there, creeping around old castles, searching for traps and all this stuff. Like there's going to be all this and more. So that kind of thing.
Nice. All right, Aaron Gieson.
Yeah, I mean, I guess because I started off in poetry, I would probably say from when I was a teenager, so a good 14 years ago or something, I was very heavily into a band called Joy Division. I don't know how well known they are in America, but they're extremely bleak, sort of late 70s, early 80s
I'm more of a
post-punk,
New
I
Order
guess.
fan.
I mean,
Joy
I like New
Division's so
Order,
much
but
better.
Joy Division.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't listen to them too much anymore because they're so bleak. But anyways, the content of their stuff's like super bleak, so that's how I got onto my poetry, and most of my poetry is extremely bleak. And then I've kind of carried that into my stories. I love anything that ends just horribly, that makes you feel like you said, like dead and empty. It's like I love that. So, that's that. And then I guess I read quite sporadically. I don't like fantasy that much. Sorry, guys. But I know I've tried to read Tolkien once and I just couldn't get away with it. But I'll not start an
Oh,
argument.
you bastard.
I respect the man entirely. But anyways, so I guess like my favorite book of all time was probably Yukio Mishima, Sailor Who Fell from Grace from the Sea. Again, it just ends horribly bleakly, so I just loved it. And then recently-ish,
How does it end? Well, I've never heard of it.
a bunch of children murder a guy that's like really nice.
Wait,
like,
don't
you
spoil
get
it.
to
You just
know-
gotta read the story.
Well, yeah, go read the story and read about Yukio Mishima. Interesting guy. But the AC got me onto June. I'd always kind of heard of it and known about it, but that's the last thing I've sort of devoured over the last couple of years, and I'm onto the 5th book now. So what I loved about June was like anytime anyone's thinking, he just puts it in italics, so it just makes it super easy. So like I love that, and I use that quite a lot in my writing because it's just easier than going he thought, she thought. So you just put it in italics, and it's like someone's thinking it. So yeah, Frank Herbert's a massive influence. But yeah, those things I'd say.
Yeah, you could definitely tell you got a very bleak, bleak outlook.
I'm actually very cheerful in real life, but yeah, in terms of art and stuff, I love it when it's just awful and meaningless. But like, yeah.
Nice. All right, Dave, do you want to answer this question?
Which question was it?
What are your biggest influences?
Oh, that's a piece of cake. I bet anybody here can guess.
Yeah, Robert. No, hold on.
Robert E. Howard, maybe?
Howard.
Oh yeah, big time.
H.P. Lovecraft.
That's it. Yep, that's those.
K. Jameson.
Yeah.
The voice of our generation.
Yeah,
we
no,
all-
Howard.
All hail.
Howard. Howard is huge for me. First time I read Conan, blew my hair back. I couldn't get enough. Lovecraft, obviously. Very early on, R.L. Stine as a kid. I loved Goosebumps as a kid.
How old were you when you read them?
Oh, I mean, I must have been 2nd grade.
Because I was kind of debating with my sister because I actually do think Goosebumps is actually a little too scary for kids.
I loved it, and
I loved Goosebumps too.
It was excellent, and so was do you remember Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark?
I remember it, but I didn't read it. I read one Goosebumps when I was a kid. Never again. Never touched another one.
Yeah,
it was scarring.
I loved them, and then obviously playing. Just about everybody here is going to mention playing old school Dungeons and Dragons and reading some of the books that were attached to those settings. The Dragonlance, Dragons of Autumn's Twilight, and all that kind of stuff. I used to like the epic fantasy stuff a little bit better when I was younger. Now that I'm getting older and I got kids and my attention span's destroyed, I don't have the patience for it. But Poe. I was a big fan of Poe growing up. Still am. I still like Poe a lot. Algernon Blackwood. I read the Willows very early on, and that had a huge impact on me. I read The King in Yellow very early on.
The Willows. Sorry to interrupt, but The Willows is amazing.
Yeah, excellent story. One of the best ever. Actually, Lovecraft said that was the best horror story ever written. That's what he said. But
what was it?
It was called The Willows by I don't know how to say his name. Algernon Blackwood. Excellent
Never
story.
heard of it.
And then a lot of film early on, obviously. Like the Conan the Barbarian movie. Movies like Crawl, some of the John Carpenter horror movies, The Thing. These movies just they really had a good impact on me. The early Gary Gygax fantasy settings, things like Greyhawk and Ravenloft. These are just kind of the stuff that everybody got into. But I always, and I'm like this with music too. I'm like this with everything. I like things that are kind of intense, right? I like things that are intense, that are gritty. I feel what Aaron's talking about. I love train wrecks. I love horrible endings. I like twists. I'm a big fan. That's why a lot of my stories have these like crazy twists, because it's almost like a challenge to me to see if I can write something that nobody saw coming. Right. I have my story in the first book. They Never Woke Up, and pretty much that story started out as I wanted to write this ending where I wanted to kind of like shock everybody.
I think that's probably my favorite of all the things you've written.
Really? You like that one?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, some people it's like 50-50. Some people like didn't like that one at all and they love Lex, or they like that one and they're like Lex is just whatever, you know. So it's like it's what it's back and forth.
I like Lex, but I think it was a really great structure you had for that just that short story.
Thank you. Yeah, I love to write as much as I can in as few words as possible. If I can write a short story in 2,000 or even 1,000 words, I'm gonna go for it. You know what I mean?
But then, like, it's like you don't even. It's like just you've whetted your appetite, and you're just like hungry afterwards, and you're just like, ugh.
No,
Like,
I love it. I love it. Lord Wolfshield likes 4-hour-long movies, guys. Like,
and I like
he's like, and it
over
could be longer.
Yeah, or over 1,000-page books. That's typically what I read.
I can't do it. But the first question, I can just sum that up real quick about how I got started. I've always written. You know, I actually when I was in 7th grade, I won a like poetry contest for like some scholastic something or other, and then in 9th grade, I I won another. I've won probably 5 writing competitions when I was in high school, mainly because I grew up in rural America, and like there's not really a whole lot of creative writing types where I come from. There's a lot of people that work on diesel engines and stuff. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but so creative minded kind of endeavors aren't really the where I grew up isn't really the breeding ground for that type of thing. So I won those things, and I got older. I've written some stuff. I've written a lot of political things. I've been published in some different publications, writing political or theological type things. But over the last couple of years, I felt some kind of way. I wanted to get back into fiction because that's what I loved and adored. And then also another influence on me is music. You know, growing up listening to Black Sabbath and Deep Purple and Rush, and then like getting into bands like Manowar and Candlemass.
You would be into Manowar, wouldn't you?
Oh, Manowar's great. Dio. Ronnie James Dio is probably my biggest writing influence. He was like one of my earliest favorite bands or artists, and I've probably heard every Dio song ever. I had when I was a kid, I had a VHS tape with every Ronnie James Dio music video recorded on it. It was back in the 90s when you could do that. You could just record whatever's on TV. So I had like a mixtape of Ronnie James Dio videos. And his videos had all this imagery, like Holy Diver, he's fighting with the sword. And then you got Last in Line, where that kid goes down into the elevator, and there's these weird sci-fi kind of, and Ronnie James Dio's wearing like this weird like Egyptian pharaoh costume. And I just adored that cheesy 80s vibe or 90s vibe. And that just influenced my writing and the aesthetics and everything that I create.
Nice. Actually, I was getting Manowar confused with Gwar. Did you ever get into Gwar?
I saw Gwar live 2 times.
Oh my god.
Yeah, they're actually the lead singer's dead now, but they're actually were a really, really fun band to see live. First time I saw them, they sprayed so much blood, that fake blood they spray everywhere. It stained my contact lenses, and I couldn't see.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
Oh no!
And so I was standing up front, and so this is gonna get that. So they're edgy on stage. So they bring out this monster like infant baby, right? It's fake, right? It's like this like big rubber monster baby. It's got moving arms and stuff. And they take this fake sword and they stick it into the baby, and the baby starts spraying blood everywhere. And I was front row as the baby's blood sprayed right into my face. It went down in my mouth and everything.
God.
It was
God.
nuts.
Oh wow.
Guara sweet. I like that song, Ham on the Bone. That's a fun track.
They're
Good
crazy.
song, man. Interesting subject matter.
Very nice. Okay, I think did we ask? I don't think we
CJ.
asked
Well,
MS.
we already talked to CJ.
Didn't the
No,
second question you didn't
no.
ask
MS
Illuminatus or
Oh,
MS
Right.
Jones
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. MS
or
Jones.
CJ
What
Miller.
What are your biggest
Hello.
influence?
Well, Ronnie James Dio, I think.
Ronnie James. Who is that?
What? They've just been extolling his virtues. No, I
I-
think music
I don't
is a part of it as well, because he played in Rainbow. They did things like Stargazer, and they were just
Hell
like
yeah,
fantasy songs and this kind of
big
stuff.
time.
And then later he moved on to Black Sabbath. You might have heard of them.
Mhm.
And then he had his own band called Dio.
Hmm.
Anyway, sorry. Just trying to riff off Dave there, but it didn't work. So my
No,
three top influences, it would be Tolkien,
naturally.
J.R.R. Tolkien, and Christopher
Jason.
Tolkien's father, J.R.R. Tolkien.
Wait, what? What? Hold on. I was confused. What now?
They're all the same guy. He's saying the top three is the same guy.
Oh, okay.
No,
Yeah. No, that's great.
no, definitely Tolkien. Michael Moorcock. I collected Michael Moorcock's books, I think, up until about 1980 something. I had every single thing he'd published. I had all the comic versions of his books. I had all the weird 60s stuff he'd done.
That's awesome. You also
But-
have like an archive, man, like a museum. You still have all
Yeah.
that stuff.
I hope so. It'll be back in the UK, so.
That sounds like a bizarre.
But my mother's not got a good track record. She threw out all my 2000 ADs already.
You threw out your what?
Oh, 2000 AD. It's a British comic,
Hmm.
Judge Dredd.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
go on.
She threw them away?
Yes.
Were they worth something?
Yes.
Oh, really? How much would they have been worth?
I think the first issue is about £200.
Ooh.
So I don't know what that's in Yankee dollars. Probably about
$1 million.
$500 million.
What's that like? I don't know.
Like
That's
80
like.
burgers.
You could get yourself a whole Big Mac with that. and fill up your tank with gas.
Maybe halfway.
No, they Michael Moorcock a lot because that episodic thing. Because there's like I think it's come up a few times tonight between the story arc and the episodic nature. And I think Moorcock had that perfectly because like if you take Elric, there's Elric and Melbourne where it's at the beginning, and you have Stormbringer where there's the end, but in between, you don't have the arc. But you know what's coming, you know what I mean? I think that's brilliant. But on the other hand, I love something like Middle Earth, where you can tell what the fourth Earl of Buffington ate for breakfast and the Second Age in 236. I just love that. That's that's what I do. You know what I mean? It's like
I have a question.
some
Have
of my
you-
writing is just the outcomes of maps and timelines and ancient history and all this kind of stuff. So it's all
Have-
in the background.
I have a question. Have you ever read any Tad Williams' The Memory Sorrow Thorn series?
I did a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just a blur for me because like the 80s was so many, because when Tolkien became popular, just everyone was trying to be Tolkien.
Hmm. I think his kind of
Yeah.
stands out as a particularly good, token-inspired story that kind of stands on its own. I feel like it's very underrated, but yeah, I was just curious. But continue.
Okay. But another one that stands out for me is Stephen Donaldson. Anyone know that?
Oh, he does
the Chronicles of Thomas Covenant.
Yeah. See, I started that one, but like, isn't he from just like our world? And he goes into this fantasy world.
He's a leper. And he goes into a fantasy world, but it's as real as our world. So he has the epitaph unbeliever because he doesn't believe it. So he just basically spends the first few books doing whatever the hell he likes because he thinks there's no consequences. And then he finds out later that, actually, this is a real world. And I think that he brought in more of a literature feel to the fantasy genre. It was like the first time I had to look up words, in the dictionary, because I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? Another influence, I would say, Carl Jung. There was a time I wanted to be a psychologist, so I read a lot about symbolism, and that was taken up by Joseph Campbell with his monomyth idea, and then that obviously got turned into one of the templates for writing books, is you have to follow the hero cycle. But I sort of picked up on that myself just from reading Jung with the symbolism and stuff. So in the Chronicles of Hiraeth, which we might come to later, there is lots of Easter eggs based on sort of symbolism and stuff.
Well, I mean,
finally,
you like your symbolism with your Illuminati signs and whatnot.
Yeah, that's a throwback. I was like on the internet at the beginning, and the only things you had on the internet were the Illuminati and the Necronomicon. And that was it. It's before porn.
Okay. Do you believe that the Illuminati is like a real thing, or is it just kind of like a fun thing for you?
Yeah, I mean, at the time it was just a joke, But there's obviously people are doing stuff, but I don't believe that. When you look at Biden and these people, they can't possibly be organized or anything. Just
right. It's just not the Illuminati per se. Yeah.
No, I mean, you had the Bavarian Illuminati, you have the Illuminatus Trilogy, which is a good read, if anyone's read that.
Haven't heard of it.
You've never heard of the Illuminatus Trilogy?
Might have to go and look that up.
There's Robert Shea and what's it called?
Who's typing?
One of these 60s hippie guys. That was quite fun. Just bringing together lots of conspiracy theories and stuff.
I heard somebody typing.
It's like not me. It's like a less serious Foucault's pendulum.
Cool.
No?
Gotcha.
And other influences, Warhammer, I think, but incidentally, because I think we both drew from the same sources. So my stuff resembles Warhammer, but I'm not copying them. We just drawing from the same well.
You don't want to admit to copying Warhammer with their ways.
No, jeez.
Not going to copy.
Why is that?
Incredibly litigious.
Oh, really? Huh.
Even though a lot of their ideas are very similar to ideas of other authors, they're very litigious.
Very similar. So basically, Warhammer is 2000 AD, Tolkien, Michael Moorcock, and Jung.
Right.
With a lawyer.
Well, I think we'll move on to C.J. Miller, though I think we can. I think we all kind of know what his influence is. But let's hear from you, C.J.
Yeah, I mean, for this story, obviously, it's an homage to H.P. Lovecraft. My other stories, I do write more with my own voice, and I guess, well, some of my influences are a little more unusual. As far as horror goes, it's pretty much just Lovecraft, and then I did read a lot of Stephen King, although I actually don't really like him as an author. You have to respect.
Why'd you read a lot of them, volume.
Well, when I was younger, the Dark Tower series, I enjoyed quite a bit when I was a young teenager, and then just some of his early stuff is pretty good. He's entertaining, but I think sentence by sentence and word by word, he's not a great writer, and it also gets much of a muchness when you read a lot of his work. So I don't know if I'd say he's an influence, but then other than that, outside of horror, I'd say, yeah, it sort of becomes samey.
Ah, gotcha.
And then outside of horror, I would say actually, surprisingly enough, Franz Kafka, and then there's a Canadian author, Mordecai Richler, and then maybe, well, yeah, I would say like Kurt Vonnegut to an extent, and Ernest Hemingway. I mean, regardless of how you feel about these like men as individuals, their writing is just objectively good, I believe, and they're artists. I respect their craft and their technical ability.
Yeah. I mean, they're classic authors for a reason,
Oh, yeah.
for sure.
I find the same with Orwell. Like I think a lot of people in sort of dissident right spheres and stuff don't really want to give him the time of day because he's an avowed socialist and stuff. But he's fantastic. He's actually one of the best critics of socialism as well, which is great. Like
That's right.
you would assume he would be like proper into it and like bigging it up, but like if you read one of his books, he's just talking about how it's terrible, which is like it's pretty interesting because it's like an insider's point of view. But anyway, yeah.
I love 19.
Aldous Huxley as well.
Yeah.
Like if you like dialogue, his book is probably one of his least known books, is Point Counterpoint, and that book is just nothing but like clever dialogue that touches on like everything from philosophy to art to like relationships in daily life. And like if you think Tarantino dialogue is clever, which I personally don't like it, it's just doesn't hold a candle to Aldous Huxley dialogue.
What were you gonna say, Dave?
Oh, I was just gonna say, 1984 was a big book for me back in the day. I read that probably in 9th grade, and that was pretty huge for me.
I haven't actually got round to it. I've read like his like non-fiction stuff, but I don't think I've ever read any of his fiction. But yeah, it's on the list. Like I'm gonna get round to it.
To be honest with you, I found it unnecessarily bleak. I really did not like the ending of 1984.
I will love it.
I liked Animal Farm better, to be honest.
Really?
You just like animals.
I do love animals.
You're always like,
but-
you always got like animals like congregating. She's like a Disney princess. Like she's always taking pictures of various like animals that are.
I do. They do
coming to see
draw.
her.
They do come. Like animals do like me, but hey, I'll take the Disney princess status. As long as it's old Disney, not new Disney.
Naturally, no.
Yeah. New Disney princesses tend to have equipment you don't have, so.
Right.
All right. So for the last question, which is what do you have for future projects? I'm gonna go. We'll do RC Booth, A. Cuthbertson, Aaron Gieson, then C.J. Miller. Then we're going to go to Dave Martel. Then we're going to end with M.S. Jones because I'm going to get some pictures up for Dave Martel and M.S. Jones. So we'll just start with RC Booth now.
Is that me?
Yep, that's you.
Well, in the future, I think in the third issue, I've got a story called Jennings, which is a rather offbeat story about a psychic dog. But not any psychic dog, it's a psychic stuffed dog.
Wait,
Wait.
what?
It's good.
It sounds quite odd.
Hold on. You have this is going to be like in Bizarchives or what's going on?
I think it is.
Yeah, it's slated for Bizarchives 3.
Yeah.
A psychic
I'm
dog.
glad you backed me up there because I'm a few beers in. So, yeah, it actually came to me in a dream, that story. It was quite a bizarre one. Where in this dream, I was a little girl and I had a stuffed dog. And it talked to me in my mind. And yeah, that's just what the story's based on. It's quite a strange one. Eventually, Ruben Bennett will be back because I realized after writing the second one and all the reviews and things I've seen that it seems quite popular, and I sort of misjudged, and I haven't written anything for him yet. So he is on his way back eventually.
I hope so.
Other than that, I've got about 1 million projects. I can't really state publicly all of them because if I state them publicly, I'm held at gunpoint to complete them. So
Okay.
quite a few things that I'm working on here and there, and who knows, some of them might actually sprout into an actual finished product.
Nice. A. Cuthbertson.
I think what I want to do most is finish the Count Corridor stories. I have the arc planned out, basically. There's going to be a lot of cool stops along the way.
Great.
I know how it's going to end, and it's going to be amazing.
Oh,
So I do want to.
so
I want
excited.
to get that done, basically. Yeah.
Do you know how many episodes it's going to be?
I don't know off the top of my head. Ideally, I want like a solid novel's worth of stuff, and then to ideally publish them all together
Awesome.
in a novel, much like an Elric novel, believe it or not. Yes. I have another project in the works, which is going to be more like the Cosmic Horror double feature, but a longer one. So it's probably like one story that's going to be about as long as the whole double feature was.
So that's going to just be published by itself through Bizarchives then?
Well, I mean, ideally, it's still in the works. I'm still writing it, if you know what I mean. Someone has to like it first before we agree to publish it, but I'm sure they will.
Dave, will you publish that?
Wait, what's that?
There's another Cosmic Horror project I was working on. It's about sort of like, one of these Lovecraftian like metal bands. So it's going to be like about one of these like bands, but kind of a real one, someone getting into some spooky stuff behind the scenes. So should hopefully turn out a bit like Spinal Tap meets Call of Cthulhu.
Oh,
So
wow.
that should be interesting.
That's quite the combination there.
Very pulpy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And also, he's got Screaming Circuits, which is going to be coming out in a future issue.
What is?
Yeah, that's a sci-fi story. It's the first sci-fi thing that I've written, which I believe probably be slated for Bizarchives 4. Yeah, that was on like a biopunk thing that I think somebody posted to the Bizarre chat, which people should join, by the way. It's like our little Telegram group where we talk about pulp and stuff. But somebody posted this genre write-up of biopunk, right? And then we all went crazy on it, and like loads of us just sat up and wrote biopunk stories late into the night, and it was a whole thing. Yeah, I stayed up till like 4 a.m. writing this one. I'm quite excited.
We have this thing that Mr. Jones calls the genre du jour, where on the Bizarchives Telegram, I'll do these like quick write-ups, like these genre breakdowns, and when we start talking about these genres, and then we all get real excited about it, and a bunch of us crank out stories in these genre du jours. It's kind of a crazy thing that we do.
It's kind of like when we all at WAC did our own cover of Dangdo Durndo. Yeah. All right, Aaron Gieson, what are you working on?
I had one submitted for Bizarchives 3, which because I'm a voyeur, I like to spy in the submissions box to see, because we sort of have access to just drop things in, and I saw that it was confirmed, and then it was unconfirmed. I was like, oh,
what?
But, I think making way for the new guys, and I don't know.
Well, you're a new guy.
Well, yeah, but I wasn't too sad about it because I don't know. I don't think it fit the tone that great, but I think the next one, not to be presumptuous, I think it'll fit the tone of Bizarchives 4 very nicely because it's sci-fi vibe, and I'm very, very proud of it. And I'm about 3/4 of the way finished, but the writing is slow to a crawl because like I'm currently renovating a house for an upcoming baby, so I have like no spare time. So
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, October. Expect baby pics. But yes, it will be finished soon. I quit caffeine, so I think that's probably why the productivity dried up a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a day, and I'm just going to pound caffeine and just smash it out because I know what's going to happen.
Monsters? Like, what do you drink?
Well, I used to just drink loads of coffee, but I think because I've quit the coffee, I'll probably just drink Monster. I could just buy some coffee. I just don't want to get back in the habit of drinking coffee every single morning. I'm trying to be as pure as possible. And that was the last vice. It was the last vice, so I had to get rid of it. Like I used to smoke and drink, and it's all gone out the window. So, but anyways, the one that I'm working on now is a sci-fi western noir, and I am very, very proud of it. And it's called Escape Velocity, and I won't give too much away, but I will say it will definitely have a bleak ending. 100%.
Nice.
So it just has to.
That's good. I mean,
It's
those
not
are
as
kind
bleak.
Best name ever too.
It's less bleak. You what? Sorry.
The best protagonist name ever.
Oh
too.
yeah. He's called. So I'll give that away. He's called. Did you come up with this, or was it?
Yeah. We were out walking, and we saw a driver give a Kurt nod.
Kurt Nod. So
Yeah.
he's called Kurt Nod.
Kurt Nod.
Yeah, like a Kurt Nod.
Yeah, a driver
Because
like
it works for the
sights.
Western.
Yeah, he gave us a curt nod, and I think you just remarked like, "That's a curt nod."
So is it spelled
We should
like
call the guy from
K,
Victoria, I
like
reckon.
Kurt? Is that
Yeah,
how-
and then
Yeah.
and then
Knodd, which I think is a real surname. I think, but yeah, he's called Kurt Nod, and he does give, I think, so far 2 Kurt Nods. So,
Excellent.
but it's much more pulpy, and it's very
That's funny.
dialogue heavy, which is a first for me. So you might enjoy that one a bit more.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm very proud of it. So yeah, watch this space.
Excellent. All right, Mr. CJ Miller, what do you got going on for the future? Oh,
So the
yeah.
next thing is obviously going to be the Antelope Hill project. And then I did make a submission for Bizarchives 4, I believe. Short story Tangirls. I'm not sure if that's going to be in there or not. If not, I'll find somewhere else to publish it. And then I was supposed to have another one coming out with that other outfit, Terror House Press, like Matt Forney's project.
Okay.
I'm not sure what the status of that is because he's disappeared from the face of the earth. I can't get a hold of him. When I first submitted that to him, he was like, talking how excited he is to publish it, and then we signed the contract and everything, and then I haven't been able to get a hold of him since. So I'm not sure where we stand on that, but maybe it'll be coming out.
And what was
title
it?
is Triangle. It's like a raunchy kind of almost like a raunchy kind of sex comedy. It's really a tongue-in-cheek satire of the dating scene among the millennial generation. And then there will be another translation coming down the pipe of Antelope Hill. It's this book written by the Ahnenerbe called Der Jahresring. Never been translated into English. Super rare. I have an original copy here holding in my hand from 1943. It's called Der Jahresring, which means something like the cycle of the year or the ring of the year, something like that.
And where does it come
from?
That
comes from this sort of like a scientific research department of the SS, the Ahnenerbe.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, so that'll be the next thing from Antelope Hill in the next several months.
Good deal.
And then I actually got to hop off the stream right now, so I'm just going to say thank you guys for hosting. Big thank you to Chad, Dave Martel for putting all this together.
Very welcome.
It means a lot to all of us. Thank you for the opportunity. And I got to go do some work with my editor here, so I'm going to hop off. But thanks for hosting, guys.
Yeah, thanks for hopping on.
Nice to meet you.
Cool.
Nice
Great
to
to have
hear from
you.
you.
See you later.
Thanks, mate. See ya.
Okay, now I'm going to get something up here before we go to Dave. Okay, well, first of all, here's obviously... hold on. The volume, this cover for volume 2. Really awesome looking cover. Hold on, I'm kind of confused. Okay, all right, Dave. Why don't you tell us about this?
All right, this is our newest book. It just became available. You can go. It's not up on the website yet, but you can go over to the Bizarchives Telegram, which is t.me/the Bizarchives, and go check out. There is a link available. We also put it up on our Substack. But it is the first book in our Legacy series, which is a series of reprints from the golden era of science fiction, the pulp era. And this is a pretty big one. This is Man in the 25th Century, Armageddon 2419 and Air Lords of Han by Philip Francis Nolan, who was a Pennsylvanian, by the way, Philip Francis Nolan. But these two stories appeared in the 1920s in a magazine called Amazing Stories, which was a really, really big one back in the pulp days. And this is these are two of the most influential old school science fiction tales ever written. This character here that appears in these two stories went on to become the iconic character Buck Rogers. And these two stories are for folks that might be familiar with Buck Rogers in the 25th century. The original story of Buck Rogers, or as he's called in these stories, Captain Rogers or Anthony Rogers, is very, very different. Buck Rogers in the 70s and so on is kind of this dashing space exploration kind of cowboy, rootin' tootin', ass kicking guy that's smooching hot babes and kicking alien ass. in these stories, he starts out as a guy that I believe he was a veteran from World War I, and I believe he was a miner. And after the war, and he falls into a cavern. There's some sort of weird radioactivity in there. He goes into this radioactive coma for centuries and wakes up finding himself in the 25th century, where as he describes, the American race has fallen and is now under the oppressive boot of the dreaded Han, the Yellow Menace. And they fly around in these Zeppelin type crafts and launch these laser blasters and incinerate people. And the Americans are trying to escape extermination by hiding out in these camouflaged woodland bases. And they organize in these what are called gangs, these tribes. And this is a future where Americans don't even remember where they came from. They don't even remember what America is. They don't even. There's one point he talks to the woman there. And he's like, "Well, you got red hair. Your last name is Irish," and she doesn't even know what Irish means. This stuff has all been forgotten. So Anthony Rogers helps the last surviving gangs of Americans put up a guerrilla resistance against the oppressive Han Empire and liberates them. So this is very, very classic science fiction, dystopian fiction. This is some of the first stuff. This went on to inspire all of the technology that appears in later sci-fi. It goes on to inspire Star Wars, Dune, everything. This is very primordial science fiction, as you could say, and it's action-packed. It's interesting. It's also a book. These are stories that mainstream publishers avoid like the plague, because it is there's some pretty edgy language in there that is considered not acceptable today. So it's really old school, but it's a great book, and it's something that if you're a fan of science fiction or classic fiction literature, it's something you got to have on your shelf. And we got it up. It's only like $10 American, so go get yourself a copy.
Yeah, it's only $10. I mean, I already bought one earlier. I mean, like, it's so cheap. Yeah. Now, how did you even find this, like, and find out like how you could publish it, and then why did you choose this, and what's sort of the story behind finding it and whatnot?
Well, I am kind of a crazy person when it comes to researching characters, especially popular sci-fi characters, and learning their origins and the original stuff. And these two stories, these aren't really for folks that are big fans of sci-fi and sci-fi history. They're not obscure. This is only obscure for folks that might not be familiar with the old sci-fi stuff. These are pretty widely known among big fans of science fiction. But I found out that Mr. Philip Francis Nolan's work went into the public domain. And I was like, I really wanted this one to be number one, because Mr. Nolan is from my home state. He's a very influential guy, a guy that kind of got lost in history. These are stories that kind of got, if you talk to like maybe somebody that was alive in the 70s and 80s, they'll be familiar with the character Buck Rogers, but they probably won't be familiar with where Buck Rogers came from. So I wanted to bring the original Captain Rogers, the original Francis Nolan from Amazing Stories into our century for young people to read and to see what how badass like original science fiction was.
And then I think you had mentioned something earlier when we were talking about how you're planning on actually writing like sequels to this, or?
Yep, I actually have it in the works now. I guess it kind of goes into answering the question you said earlier about what we're working on. One of the things that I'm working on is I want to take the character of Captain Rogers and continue writing according to the original source material. So instead of taking him and just transforming him into this Luke Skywalker, Flash Gordon type character where he explores the universe and it's this planetary romance, and there's babes. I wanted to keep it in the vein of this bleak, sort of spooky, dystopian world where it's kind of gritty and violent and very action oriented. And instead of Buck Rogers being this kind of awesome, charming, dashing hero that explores the universe, he's this gritty commando that's stuck on Earth, trying to liberate his people in a future that is alien to him. So I actually have a novella that's going to be coming out when I finish it. It's going to be called "It's Man in the 25th Century: Return of the Han," and this is after these two stories. Pretty much, the way the story goes is Captain Rogers, the radiation that kept him in the coma had effects on his aging, so he ages much slower than normal people. So this happens, I believe I have it 60-something years after this happens, and Captain Rogers is still a young man, and everybody that he liked and all of his friends that are in the first books, he outlives them, unfortunately. So his kind of main squeeze in the first stories, Wilma, he has to watch her get old and pass away, and it kind of has an effect on his psyche. And he becomes this commando that doesn't really, he just lives to fight the Han. And they have this time of peace, but the Han get their shit together, and they form a brand new empire using they start dabbling in gene editing and all this kind of weird stuff, and they come back, and he has to fight them all over again.
Very nice. How long do you think that one's going to be?
I want to keep it 60 pages.
And how many pages is this one?
This is 170 pages.
Gotcha.
It's two books in one, two novellas in one.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm very excited to get that and see what you do. Compare the how the original author wrote versus what you write. That's going to be very
My
fun.
writing style is different than Mr. Nolan's, and I think some people that really love these might look at my style and be like, this is a lot different. But I want the character itself and the nature of the setting. I want to keep that. I want to preserve that.
All right, good deal. So make sure you pick up a copy of this one as well, everybody. Now we're going to move on to Mr. M.S. Jones. Now I'm very excited for this because I get to do the world premiere of the cover for M.S. Jones' next work. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that, M.S. Jones?
Okay, so this is the first volume of the Chronicles of Heraldry, which is going to be a 8-book series, much to Dave's chagrin.
That's awesome. I love it.
And it's like I say, it's inspired by Tolkien.
I'm sorry, is it you got the cover art?
I do have the cover art. Yep. I'm gonna just let him kind of introduce it a little bit, and then I'll show it off.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. So the main protagonist is Marius, who works in the Miramar City Watch, which is the capital city of the current empire. So he's a veteran soldier. But he's found his home in Miramar, and then, well, no spoiler, but something happens in this.
Oh, something happens in a book?
Something happens. And this it's the beginning of the fulfillment of an ancient prophecy.
All right.
So,
well, let me. I'm gonna show off the cover right now. Dun da da da! Look at that.
Beautiful.
Bad ass. Looks awesome. I am so excited for this. I've been basically I keep messaging like Dave and MS Jones about this. Like, when's it coming out? When's it coming out? I need it because this is what right up my alley, like an epic fantasy series that has a map at the beginning and everything.
It has a map.
The only thing that kind of bugs me about this cover is why did why did you go with Marcus S. Jones? Why didn't you stay with M.S. Jones? Because that's typically the fantasy author, cliches to have the two initials. And you always go by M.S. Jones, except for when you do your fantasy, and then you go with Marcus. It makes no sense.
It fits better. No, the first book I published was Marcus S. Jones, and people say you have to keep the same, identity for marketing reasons. So, because the M.S. Jones was, I don't know, it just sort of, what can I call myself? Because I'm so used to being Illuminatus on the internet that when I was actually writing something in my own name, like for White Dragon and stuff, I'm just like, oh, what do I put? Oh, M.S. Jones. That's anonymous enough, isn't it? There's enough Joneses in the world.
It also
No one
works
knows who
well
I
for
am.
like a fantasy author.
Yeah, but that was many years ago. I thought I would do that. Like I've got like the Mythicide, which is urban fantasy, so that was the Marcus S. Jones, and M.S. Jones for the epic fantasy. But everyone's telling me no, you can't do that. You have to have the same identity, even if it's different genres. So I'm just stuck with that.
Gotcha.
Sorry.
Gotcha. But yeah. Any idea when this is gonna get released, Dave, or
shortly?
Yeah.
Shortly.
The cover's done. We got to do a little bit of interior layout. And then we're about ready, man. It's this is something that I wanted to kind of take our time on because this is going to be huge. Like this is a really, really good book. And folks that like fantasy, I wanted our first release to be done right. I wanted to format it in a way that would be more successful for Mr. Jones. We broke it. He had it in a what's that called, a quintology, or what? He had it in the like 4 big books, and we talked and we agreed to break it down into 8 books because unfortunately selling novels is like the big doorstopper novels is only really marketable to people that like doorstopper novels. So
like me.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
and unfortunately, Mr. Wolfshield, you are part of a market demographic that is shrinking. So
Right.
we broke it down into 8 books so it'd be more palatable for people that might not be familiar with epic fantasy. So it'll be a lot more accessible for people, and also have a better profit margin and a better price point. That's important for Bizarchives, is to have a really good price point.
How many pages is it going to be?
I believe it came down to Mr. Jones. It came out to 50-something thousand words, right?
Yeah, 56,000. So
I
don't do pages. It's
what is
words for me.
50. I'm gonna look that up quick.
It's like it's in the ballpark of 200-something pages, I believe.
That's part 1. Because I had to rewrite the whole bloody thing, but
What? Why? Because he had to,
he had to stop in the middle, so I needed to.
You find a better
add
ending.
Conclusion.
Gotcha.
For the first one, which was fine because I think it improved the story. So
good deal. Yeah, I am just champing at the bit for this one for sure.
Yeah. So for people that for Mr. Jones, 2 of his stories, like the ending for the Dune Lord's Dreaming, I was like, hey, let's do a little bit of add a little bit more onto the ending here, and it turned out even better. And as you said with this, it turned out it really worked out. So to it's okay to edit your endings and to add a little bit of stuff and to switch things up. So it's important. Here's something that for folks that might want to be getting into publishing, half of the battle with selling books is making sure that it fits into a market. Writing is an art and it's a talent, but it's also a business. And a lot of writers, they kind of they have this mentality of, oh, well, I just want to write what I want to write. I want to write how I like it. And unfortunately, some of these writers, they go and they publish it, and then it doesn't really go anywhere because it only appeals to them, right? We, at the end of the day, as writers, are entertainers. Nobody wants to go see a band and the guy's just playing music that only he's gonna like. You know what I mean? As a musician, you gotta write music that you think is going to entertain people. So it's okay to go in and switch things up and to make it more marketable.
Listen to your editor, because as a writer, it's a very solitary profession, and feedback is like gold. You know what I mean? Because you're so in your own world. You need someone else to like nudge it here and there. And for me, you can't be precious about what you've written. If you're like, no, I've written this, it's the best thing ever, and no, you're never going to get anywhere. You know what I mean? You need other people's perspectives.
Right, and at least you're not being told that you have to put in like more gay characters and black characters and stuff like that.
Oh, hell no.
No, that's not happening.
Yeah.
I didn't think of that. I'll not be subverting expectations too much.
All right, Hiraeth, do you want to give any sort of closing thoughts on it or whatever?
I love the cover for that. I'm looking forward to all these projects, all these future stories. This has been awesome. Like I said, I'm used to hearing a little bit about the influence and creative process of more of musicians. So it's nice to hear from writers because it's a different beast, but it is very creative. And yeah, it's very fascinating. So I'd like to hear more about like the creative process at some point in time for you guys.
Yeah, we'll have to have you guys all back on for after Volume 3 or whatever. And we'll get into that, like your creative process. That'll be a good thing to kind of
definitely.
interview
But yeah,
about.
it's been a pleasure. I'm happy I got to participate in this.
Yeah, if you can find out what it is, let me know. Yeah.
No.
You're the one that has notebooks stacked of,
Right.
like, all your writings.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe your process is just let it flow out. It's like it just happens.
Yeah, sit in the pub with a beer and just write.
There you go.
That seems to work.
It's one of the best ways. Yeah.
Do any of you guys want to go around the horn to give your final thoughts, or just to say goodbye or whatever?
Yeah. We doing round robin or what?
Sure, yeah. We can start with, I don't know, whoever wants to. You don't have to.
Let's start with RC Booth. Let's go around.
All right.
Let's have some rhyme to the reason. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I've enjoyed myself. I think it's been good talking. I think there's some subjects we could have hit on maybe, but I suppose that's for next time. But thank you for having me on anyway. I've enjoyed myself.
What was that? Something about next time? What?
Yeah, you mentioned that you'd have us back. Sorry.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'd love to have you all back again. Yeah. All right, Cuthbertson.
Yeah. Just I like all those sentiments. It's been loads of fun. Thanks for having me on, and I will be back for the next one. Sure.
Awesome. Sounds great.
I guess that's me. Thanks for having us. It's been great. I like being part of, like, contrary to my bleak sort of outlooks, it is nice to see like efforts towards combating the monolithic monsters of publishing and art and stuff that have kind of taken over absolutely everything. So it is very encouraging and nice. So there's a pleasant note to end on for once.
Nice.
Yeah, once again, thanks for having me on, and a big thanks to Dave for getting this thing rolling and keeping the momentum up.
Big round of applause for Big Dave.
He's the man. Can I just give a shout out to the Scrubs Nerd Game? So that's Stephen, Arpow, Charlie, and definitely not Jez. Okay.
Yeah. Shout out to that, I guess. I don't know what that is. Yeah, and then Big Dave, you can give your final thoughts or whatever.
Yeah, of course. I appreciate you guys bringing us on, letting these guys get on and talk and let the readers get to know these guys a little bit better, because it's really cool, man. We have so much fun. We really do. We have our own little chat with the authors. We all get to know each other. We've been working together in this summer. It'll be like a year we've been working together, and it's just awesome to get to know everybody. And we crack jokes and bust balls, but we also like lift each other up and help each other and look at each other's work and build and get better and polish our craft together. And I couldn't done it. I wouldn't even want to do it without these guys. These guys are some of the coolest, most interesting, weirdest, eccentric, awesome, creative people I've ever had the pleasure to work with. And I don't say weird in a bad way. I mean weird, like, because I'm a fucking weirdo too. So it's like we all get weird together. And it's
shout out particularly to RC Booth for dressing up for the night. Really taking it to the next level.
I was a little nervous. He goes, I'm all right. We're going on. Let me prepare my costume. I was like, oh God, what's he gonna be wearing? What's this gonna be?
He's even got the right cup to be drinking out of.
Yeah, it fits his story. It helped me like it helped me put put the author to the story.
Yeah, now I'm gonna see RC Booth as Reuben Bennett from now on. That's how I'm gonna imagine the
exactly. Yeah.
But we are as these guys all said, the institutions of literature, of art, have been corrupted, have been subverted, or are now in the clutches of rotten, spiteful mutants, terrible, talentless, just the worst people you can imagine, that don't give the time of day to great writers and brilliant creators, and that chaps my ass. So we are waging a fiction jihad against those scumbags, and we're gonna win, and they can't stop us. We are taking fiction back by force, and there's nothing they can do about it. So you guys out there that support literature and support, and the whole goal of what Bizarchives does is to just completely eliminate. We're not here to preach our politics to you. We're not here to preach anything to you. We're here to entertain you and to bring you affordable, accessible, cool writing, to make writing cool again for regular Joe Schmoes like us. And that's just the whole goal. And I believe that we're having success, and I owe the success to these guys right here. And we're going to keep going. We're going to keep grinding, and there's nothing they can do to stop us.
Yeah.
Amen.
Love it. It's awesome.
Very inspiring. And I guess for me, like I am working on a Bizarchives short film right now based off of Baby Teeth. I've been saying that for a while now. It's taken a bit longer than I had hoped, but it's definitely coming out. Me and my cousin, we're doing the pre-production on it, and it's going to be pretty awesome. And I'd love to also possibly work with some of you guys on some future scripts for other short films that I would like to make in the future. But yeah, it's great to have like all these creative people to kind of work with and interface with and get inspiration from and whatnot.
Yeah, I'll say that I get approached, not a lot, but sometimes folks are like, "Hey, I want to
in bathrooms."
No. Yeah. So a magnet for perverts for some reason. But, what a terrible existence that would be. Like, what if that's like your superpower?
Well, it's George Michael, you know.
George Michael, yeah. But folks out there that are interested in hiring writers that need writers. I know there's guys that are out there trying to put together plays or radio shows, or I had a guy ask me if any of our writers would help. He's doing like one of those like the story games where you kind of like choose your own adventure kind of game or whatever. If you have any sort of anything that requires a writer, I have writers. We have writers here. If you ever need somebody to hire, reach out to us. We got plenty of guys that will definitely work for you.
Editing too.
You're just pimping us out now, aren't you?
Oh, there's like 3 people talking at once. Hold on.
One at a time.
What were you guys saying?
You're just pimping us out now.
Oh, yeah.
Will
John
write
Gorod.
for food.
Yeah.
We'll work for food.
Go get some money for daddy.
Oh, boy.
Oh man, that was a bit much.
Oh, boy.
I hate the D word, man. I hate the D word.
Made it gross.
Alrighty, well, we'll draw this show to a close on that note.
On that, yeah.
Can I just give a quick shout out to JD Solway, because I missed him out on my last shout out, because he's not actually part of the nerd game at the moment, but he's getting suicidal. So a big up for JD Solway, if that's his real name.
What does he do?
Well, it's part of my D&D group.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Gotcha.
Nice.
Alrighty, well, yeah, I'll just close it out here then. As they say in Canada, peace out.
Episode.
So yeah,
Bye.
Thank you.